Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you casual sports fans out there like you and me. And in this episode number 292, we're here back once again for our weekly roundup around the NFL as we talk about the week that was and the week that is upcoming in the National Football League. And this week, in the 5th edition of our week in review, it's week number 5. We are all done and all settled with the 5th week in the NFL as we have reached the quarter-way point of our current season that is. And we'll take a brief look at the end of this episode towards week number 6. So, yeah, a lot to discuss once again as we're at the quarter-way point of our NFL season. So, that being said, before we get right into it, make sure, as you already know, or if you don't know, for the new listeners to the podcast, make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media. And for all my audio listeners out there, rate and review the show. And whether it's on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, make sure you rate and review the show. Leave me some feedback. And if you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? We bring you the filthy casual takes on the world of sports, whether it's pro wrestling or stuff like this, the NFL. And leave a comment down below and share your filthy casual thoughts in the topic at hand, that being week 5 of the 2025 NFL season. And share this podcast with your friends, your neighbors, some strangers out there. Share the word about Very Cold Lasagna. So that being said, let's look back at the week that was week number 5. And we started the trend of bye weeks. Yeah, there are some early bye weeks happening. Yeah, very early bye weeks. Some teams got to go off on vacation for very early in the season, and if some of it took advantage of it, some of it considered a disadvantage because it's a very long season and it's sometimes not great for them. So those teams included the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's at least 2 games off the board for right now. So yeah, those teams got to enjoy a vacation of rest for this past week. And yeah, we move forward. So starting with the Thursday night football game, only on Amazon Prime Video for that $15.99 a month, pal. And by the way, yeah, go get some good deals on Amazon right now as they got that sale going on, regardless of whether you have that $15.99 or whatever, pal. So anyway, we had my San Francisco 49ers on that $15.99 a month, pal, going up against the LA Rams in a critical NFC West showdown in a game that both teams needed to win. And it went wire to wire. And a depleted 49ers team went down there to SoFi Stadium, and it went the extra distance. The 49ers defense made a big stop on Kyren Williams on a big 4th down as the 49ers, as depleted as they are, went on to beat the LA Rams 26-23 in a very surprising result that even surprised me. So looking back at this game, looking back at my Niners, as I talked about in my recap of this game back in the last episode, I was surprised. And I gotta say, in looking at another thing from this game, I'd say probably one the more, I don't know if I say biggest upsets of the season. Maybe it is from your perspective. I don't know. Maybe it is one of the biggest upsets of the season. I would say it's one of the more surprising upsets of the season, in my opinion, because like I said, they were severely depleted, coming in with a shit ton of injuries, as if they didn't have so many already, other than the other team, the Baltimore Ravens, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the more piling of injuries included Brock Purdy, Jawan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall, again, on top of the lengthy list that they already had. But yet they still managed to win this game. But they also left with a couple more injuries. They suffered through in this one, including to the defensive line once again with Kalia Davis, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Mac Jones also got hurt in this game as well because his offensive line sucks ass. So going forward with this game as they head into another big showdown this coming week, which we'll talk about towards the end of this episode, The bad news is obviously like more people got hurt, like Yuta Gross-Matos. He's going to miss some time, but the good news is that some reinforcements are on the way back and hopefully back soon, and that they're 3-0 in the NFC West. So that's the good news. Now, obviously, like a team with my 49ers, being 3-0 in the division does not guarantee that you'll win the division by the end of the season. I mean, just look at the LA. Look at the LA, certain LA team right now. Where it at? I'm not talking about the one that we're about to discuss, but look where they're at right now. So just look at, like I said, multiple times, the case study with last year's Atlanta Falcons. So it's still early in the season, but this was a nice gutsy win again by the 49ers, coming off that bad loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for the LA Rams, they had multiple chances to win this game. They came back and tied it up. They started off slow, but Matthew Stafford and the offense got very hot in the second half to tie the game up with the chance to win at the end. But they lost multiple chances to win it much earlier, thanks to missed kicks from Josh Carty, their kicker, and Kyron Williams. He had 3 critical mistakes, but the most costly one was a goal line fumble where towards the end of the fourth quarter where the Rams could have won it, but Alfred Collins punched out. Either that happened or Kyron Williams just had butterfingers and Alfred Collins just managed to pick it up. And then he also got stopped on fourth down on their final fourth down, and the Niners stopped him. So the Rams are going to be heading to Baltimore to rebound, but they're also going to be kicking themselves because, well, they're going to have to keep themselves within striking distance within the 49ers now. So going into the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion, and I mean the very early morning portion, as the Minnesota Vikings took on the Cleveland Browns in London, as Carson Wentz came up clutch with a touchdown to Jordan Addison with 21 seconds left to spoil Dylan Gabriel's Cleveland Browns debut 21-17 in London, mate. So the Vikings came up to win, and unfortunately for the Vikings, they still need to get their offensive line to get healthy, because just like last week, the Vikings had to play 3 backup offensive linemen because of injuries to their starters, and they were unable to play. And up until the fourth quarter, Carson Wentz really struggled to keep his composure. He turned the ball over twice, got sacked multiple times that ended promising drives, and he even hurt his shoulder towards the end of the first half where he had to leave the game. And then you had this backup, I don't even know his name, had to do the traditional first half kneel down. So, that offensive line really needs to get healthy. And if they're not going to get healthy, then Kevin O'Connell and the general manager, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, they have to get some reinforcements from the outside. Then for the Cleveland Browns, I'd say, for Dylan Gabriel, the rookie, I think he did okay. He didn't make any mistakes, and he led 2 early touchdown drives. But the play calling was otherwise pretty conservative. It was pretty safe as he made his first start. So I don't think there's much to add on to Dylan Gabriel. But when you look at how running back Quishon Judkins did, though, who has been, I'd say, doing pretty good so far in the games that he actually played, but he got an increased workload in this one. He powered through the Vikings defense, found a lot of open holes with a lot of patience. So, going forward, I think Quishon Judkins should be the focal point of this offense. If I think, Dylan Gabriel is going to be the starter going forward, especially towards next week when they return home to the States in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Then we had the Houston Texans taking on the depleted Baltimore Ravens, as the Texans offense pretty much ran over the Baltimore Ravens, highlighted by CJ Stroud's 4 touchdowns, taking them down 44 to an unfortunate 10. So for the Texans, I'm still not convinced that that they're fully back on track, because while it's kind of encouraging that CJ Stroud and the offense are playing back to their standards, but it came against a bad Titans team and this Ravens squad battling injury mania, and they have a shitty defense. So maybe if they can beat Seattle next week, which is a better team and a more convincing team, with maybe if they can beat them with this kind of performance in what could be a closer game, maybe that could convince me. But until then, these two games, blowout games, mind you, from the Texans, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced the Texans are fully back. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Ravens, they are just so ravaged by injuries right now, to the point they're trotting out scrubs, especially on defense. Even before the injuries, their defense that I thought was supposed to be improved before the season started, it's been atrocious in both the pass rush and in the secondary. Like they made all these additions to the secondary in the draft, but it's still the same old defense like we saw like in most of last season. And it doesn't get any better because they're going to be facing a Rams team that are going to be looking to bounce back after letting a depleted 49ers team steal a win from them this past week. So for the Ravens, I don't know what's going to happen this upcoming week against the Rams, but they really need to get to their bye week because they need to get Lamar Jackson healthy and they really need to get their defense healthy. Meanwhile, down in Carolina, the Panthers took on the Miami Dolphins and they shook off a bad start to overcome a 17-0 disadvantage with a big play day from Michael Dowdle and a better second half performance from Bryce Young to win this game late, 27-24. What the hell's happening to the Miami Dolphins after one good performance against a bad New York Jets team? They followed up with a good at least good first half performance, but then they kind of shit the bed. The passing game, again, it looked fine for most of the game, thanks to Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller taking on bigger roles, and rightfully so. But there's no third man. The rushing attack was non-existent, and the Panthers defense eventually caught on to that. Tua did fine on Sunday, but they got to find that third man that will complement Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller, and they got to find a rushing attack. So this offense, it's kind of in trouble right now. And if it doesn't get it together, it's going to get really ugly. And I think Mike McDaniel is really starting to find the writing on the wall on that. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, I'll give credit to them. They fought back in this game. They had better team effort on both sides of the ball in the second half, and plus. And maybe they also, in this game, there's a silver lining that Dave Canales can have that 1-2 punch of Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle as that duo. But at the same time, there's that part of me where this game and this win also showed what we've seen so far from this Carolina Panthers team. That there's this inconsistency from this Panthers team with how well they do one week, which was the second half and plus, and then how bad they do in the other, which was the first quarter and change. So if they want to kind of be competitive and kind of string a few more wins, especially back-to-back wins, they have to be there for all four quarters. They got to be present. So consistency matters. And so far, I'm not seeing it from the Carolina Panthers. Then we have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and it got ugly real fast as Jonathan Taylor ran over the field for a hat trick game, 3 touchdowns to help the Colts rebound and crush the Raiders 40-6. The Las Vegas Raiders don't look like a team right now. They look seriously lifeless. This was the second time in 3 weeks where Pete Carroll's team got its ass whooped. They were able to handle the first quarter okay, but then they completely fell off the rails by the time the second quarter happened. In every single phase, Carroll and his staff, they really need to evaluate some changes because they're not going to go anywhere if they keep playing like this, especially with Geno Smith turning the ball over. Some of it's his fault, but then a lot of it is his faulty offensive line, which doesn't really help matters. So like I said last week, at some point, you're going to be seeing Kenny Pickett if you're a Raiders fan. But again, half of the blame goes to Geno, half of it goes to his offensive line, but this team is seriously flawed. So, yeah, this, like I said, they really need to evaluate some changes because if they keep playing like this, they're not going to go anywhere. Meanwhile, for the Indianapolis Colts, they played a clean game all around this week. Again, in fairness, this was against a Raiders team that's really crappy in contrast to a Rams team last week that was much more competitive. But regardless, Daniel Jones had a much more efficient turnover-free performance. Jonathan Taylor, once again, was a efficient and powerful running back against the Raiders defense. The Colts defense prevented Geno Smith and the Raiders offense from scoring in the end zone, even though their own red zone defense is kind of questionable right now. And the special teams blocked a punt deep in Raiders territory. So there's a nice performance and a rebound one that the Colts needed. But unfortunately, it did come at a cost of losing their accurate kicker, Spencer Schrader, to a season-ending injury. And it was apparently a ACL and MCL injury. So, man, that's rough. And it came on a penalty-induced tackle from the Raiders special teams. So, oh man, and it was on an extra point too, which makes things even worse. Of all things, a tackle on an ACL and MCL, which was on a penalty. And so that's really rough. So they got to find a replacement kicker now, and who knows if that replacement kicker is going to do as well or slightly. It's going to be a little bit of a downgrade, but hopefully not a significant downgrade for the Colts, because that could change a little bit of your season, or if not a significant part of your season for Indianapolis, as they're doing pretty good right now. Meanwhile, down in the Big Hard, the New Orleans Saints was looking for their first win against the New York Giants, but they managed to do so because they forced 5 turnovers on Jackson Dart and the Giants, 2 of which came off with points to get a win over the G-Men, 26-14. And for the Giants, they were okay in the first half, but then things completely fell off the rails from there because they made a lot of mistakes. 5 straight turnovers, and that's not going to get the job done. But Jackson Dart, I thought he was okay in the first. Again, he was okay in the first half, but he came back down to earth after last week's surprising performance. Made some rookie mistakes, like an underthrown interception, and he lost a fumble, and nobody was around him. He just let the ball slip out of his hands, and yeah, the Saints recovered it. But nonetheless, again, he's a rookie. I mean, he made some rookie mistakes in this game, and there is fair criticism for that performance. But there's still some positives to take away from this. Made some nice throws, made those 2 touchdowns. But it's just a friendly reminder that Dart is a rookie. But then again, he just needs some more help from his supporting cast. Meanwhile, for the Saints, they've been a team so far, despite the huge talent deficit that has hung around in their first 4 or 5 games. But too many repeated mistakes has gotten in the way of getting that elusive win. And honestly, they could have gotten at least another win had it not been for those repeated mistakes. Take example, the first game against Arizona. But they finally managed to get over that hump this week with a complete team effort. The defense logged 5 total turnovers on Jackson Dart, and Spencer Rattler probably played his best game since week 2 against my 49ers. So overall, this team finally got their first win, and now they'll have a bigger challenge next week, though, against the Patriots. But they can at least breathe a little bit that they got their winless monkey off their back. So they at least got a little bit of momentum next week when they face New England. Then we had Dallas take on the New York Jets in the gangrene side of the Meadowlands. But unfortunately for the Jets, they weren't dancing yet again as Dak Prescott threw for 4 touchdowns, and a collective offensive effort overall allowed the Cowboys to fly through the Jets 37-22. And yeah, the offense hid the defensive issues that is riddling the Cowboys right now. So this defense, notably the secondary, it wasn't too much of an issue because, they didn't really have to do much against this shitty Jets offense. So it was pretty much the Dak Prescott and the offense show. So they were able to continue their success so far with a high-powered offense that can score points and pretty much a whim. And as indicated in the game last week against the Packers and a couple weeks ago against the Giants. So they were pretty much able to run all over that Jets defense. So speaking of the Jets, starting with their team overall, let's just talk about the team overall. Justin Fields, again, it was a kind of a disastrous performance, taking too long to process his reads, which led to sacks. His offensive line couldn't protect him. It was like a split 50-50 bad effort. Like, is again half Justin Fields' fault, but at the same time his offensive line broke down quickly. But then especially the defense, which was once one of the best despite how crap the rest of the team was, especially the offense, is become just like the offense with how soft they played in both the pass rush, which has basically become non-existent, and in the secondary, especially when you have one of the what supposedly is supposed to be one of the best corners in the NFL in Sauce Gardner. So it makes you wonder, is Aaron Glenn and his staff even having his guys ready throughout the week? Or is he making them look like what he was a couple weeks ago in Tampa? A meme. As if the Jets weren't already a meme. They're no-showing every single week. And you ask yourself, what are they doing? What exactly are they doing in practices throughout the week to get themselves ready for these games? Because they're no-showing so far. And that's why they're 0-5. Meanwhile, we had the Denver Broncos in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And this was probably one of the biggest upsets of the week, other than the Thursday night game, as the Broncos erased a 17-3 deficit in the fourth quarter with 18 unanswered points in the fourth, and well-played defense to give the defending champions their first loss of the year. Yeah, beating the Eagles 21-17. And I gotta say, for the Broncos, they started off very slow, looked on the verge of another middling loss, filled with mistakes, but you gotta give credit to them for shaking off all of that to win this game. Bo Nix led 3 strong scoring drives in the fourth, including a risky 2-point call from Sean Payne, which was gutsy yet big after a game full of mostly bad ones. Defense locked in on Jalen Hurts in the fourth quarter, sacked him 5 times to get his offense on the field, and gave Denver's offense the eventual chance to win. So I'm not sure if this is an early statement win for the Broncos, because again, it's well early in the season. We're only at the quarterway point, but I'd say it was Denver's best win of the season by far. But again, time will tell if they can run with it, if they can follow that up. Meanwhile, for the Philadelphia Eagles, I gotta say it's a microcosm so far of what has happened to them right now. Like, they nearly collapsed last week versus the Bucs because of disappearing team effort on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. But yeah, eventually those chickens were going to come home to roost. And it happened this week because of those same issues and more. Jalen Hurts threw it a lot in the fourth quarter for whatever reason. When Saquon should have been a bigger focus, they only ran the ball 5 times in the fourth quarter. Especially when Denver was starting to catch up, making that comeback, and they made some killer penalties that ruined their attempts to win it at the buzzer. So, yeah, that Eagles defense was kind of undisciplined in the second half. The defense, speaking of, they had no answers to stop Bo Nix in the offense when they were driving down the field. And again, making some back-breaking penalties like Zach Bond's personal foul on the Broncos' last scoring drive. So the Eagles, I'd say they still remain the team to beat in the NFC, but there are some early glaring concerns, especially offensively. So going into the late afternoon slate of games, we had the Tennessee Titans going to the desert to take on the Cardinals, and this was another surprising result. And I'd say this slate of games was probably the better bunch for this past week. And it started off with this one. The Titans scoring 13 unanswered in the fourth, including one of the weirdest scoring plays that you'll ever see in quite some time, as they capped off a 21-3 comeback with Joey Sly hitting the game winner 22-21. And I gotta say, with this Titans team, even though I still don't think they're going anywhere this year, and kind of rightfully so, at least the offense, they finally put things together, and it's about time that they did. The receiving core finally caught on. They put on their best showings of the year with a lot of resilience and uniting together, especially the receiving core finally catching the big balls from Cam Ward, especially Calvin Ridley, to set them up in the red zone for the game winner. And they still got a long ways to go from really competing, like I said, but Brian Callahan, I feel like this win kind of saved his butt. And they should use this momentum to play like they did against Arizona going forward. They got to really follow up on that. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, Arizona. Like, you had a big lead. You raced out to another big lead, just like you did against Carolina. You hit the end zone 3 or 4 times on Sunday. You were in the red area, and it seemed like you were well on your way to a rebound win after their comeback against the Seahawks fell short. But just like the Carolina game, they just kept getting it out in their own way. The offense stopped working. Murray left for a bit because of a botched snap that hit his own face mask and injured him. Amari DeMarcado, the running back, he pulled an Adonai Mitchell. What do I mean by that? Well, go look that up. Go look that clip up from last week. Yeah, the Adonai Mitchell thing. And probably the most egregious play, the wacky interception on Cam Ward that turned into a fumble, and it turned into a touchdown by Tennessee. So you had a 21-3 game turned into a probable 21-19 game. Just 2 points in the fourth quarter before Cam Ward picked them apart in the game's closing moments. And then, Joey Sly sealed the deal in an improbable comeback. Yeah. If you were looking for that late season collapse from Arizona that comes yearly around, whether it's from Cliff Kingsbury or now Jonathan Gannon, well, guess what? Arizona or what, and general NFL fans, that came very early because Arizona is choking very hard as of late. Like, it's unfathomable how the fuck they blew this game. And it just came home to roost. So then in the Emerald City, we had the Tampa Bay Bucks taking on the Seattle Seahawks as Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold like dueled it out in a shootout, which ended with Levante David intercepting Sam Darnold to set up Chase McLaughlin's game-winning field goal in favor of Tampa Bay, beating the Seahawks 38-35. And man, these cardiac Bucks, man, they never quit. And neither does Baker Mayfield, because he didn't have Mike Evans, he didn't have Bucky Irving, but this team, it didn't flinch. They kept pace with the Seahawks. They came through as the better team in this shootout. Emeka Egbuka, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that rookie receiver's name, he continues to make his case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe even Offensive Player of the Year. He can win both of those awards. He's a candidate for both of those awards very early in the season. But overall, these cardiac Bucks, they're making a lot of big plays, especially on offense. So I feel like these really close games, which the Bucks have won by 3 or fewer points, win or lose, it's really going to help the Bucks play at a high level. Even if they repeat as the division champions, which I imagine they probably will, come December and come January, if they make the playoffs, which I imagine they should, because the division is so weak right now. So these cardiac Bucks are here to stay. Meanwhile, for the Seahawks, they did pretty well in this game, especially offensively. Sam Darnold put on a season best performance with 4 touchdowns and making mostly smart decisions with the football. His receivers, notably Torrey Horton, continues to do very well. being that reliable receiver. I mean, alongside Jackson Smith and the Jigba, of course. So, yeah, this offense continues to perform very well, especially Darnold, until that deciding interception, which, yeah, it bounced off the helmet of a Bucs defender. So, yeah, aside from that, though, that supposedly improved defense, it still doesn't feel like it, though, which cost this team the win. And it allowed a supposedly depleted Bucs team to score 38 on them, which also allowed the shootout to happen. So, yeah, the offense should feel some encouragement on Sunday, but it also came with disappointment because the defense didn't hold up its end of the bargain. So, yeah, it does come with some side of encouragement, yet disappointment. So then we had the Detroit Lions being the Cincinnati Bengals because Detroit's offense took advantage of 3 early turnovers from Jake Browning, but it also nearly gave up a 28-3 lead in the fourth quarter. And it's not Super Bowl style, by the way, Super Bowl 51 style. Before putting the Bengals to sleep for good, 37-24. And the Lions, they continue to roll on offense with the sharing is caring style of offense, because the offense, sure, they didn't have too many wow moments in this game, nor did it need to, because a variety of skill players got involved. David Montgomery had 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 passing, while his partner Jahmyr Gibbs had a big day as well, with a touchdown to add. And Sam Laporta also got a touchdown and got involved in this game too. So Jared Goff also had a nice day as well, and he didn't need to get too involved. So yeah, overall it was a nice productivity day on offense. So they're going to need that next week in a big showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs. But at the same time, they also have to clean up the finer things. Committing 8 penalties, a turnover, and letting the Bengals come back from 28-3 in the fourth quarter. It's not going to do it against the Kansas City Chiefs in prime time. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Bengals, as I mentioned last week, when Cincy got his ass whooped by Denver, with the whole world, the whole United States watching, Jake Browning is not the fill-in answer that Zach Taylor is going to be looking at in the next, if not the rest of the season. Because this is not the same Jake Browning that nearly got the Bengals a playoff berth 2 years ago in 2023. Sure, he helped the team try to get back into this game in the fourth quarter, but it was way too late. The deficit was too large after he made way too many bad decisions again. So if playoff aspirations are somehow still in the air in Zach Taylor's sights, then he needs to trade for a quarterback better than the one starting for him right now. Actually, he managed to do that. More on that in a bit. So then down in the powder blue side of Los Angeles, after we got done talking about the blue and gold side, we had the Washington Commanders taking on the LA Chargers. The Commanders turned an early 10-0 deficit into a 20-10 lead that they never let go of, courtesy of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's 2 touchdowns and his overall big day, beating the LA Chargers 27-10. And with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, he may be the running back that can take some of the load off of Jaden Daniels having to run a lot. And he didn't do much in the first 4 games, but Sunday, it was his breakout with over 100 rushing yards, those 2 touchdowns that gave Washington control of this game. He did have a fumble late in the game, but he made up for it with some strong first down runs that put the game away in favor of the Commanders. So Dan Quinn, I feel like he may have found his future RB1 that could lessen Jaden Daniels having to run so much, especially with those quarterback draws. And now for the Chargers. I feel like it's appropriate to say that they once again caught the sorry. I feel like they clip. They caught the Clippers. They caught the Clippers again. They caught the disease known as the Clippers. Yeah. After starting the season 3-0, they caught the disease known as the Clippers. And why was that? Well, aside from the injuries to both the defensive and offensive lines, Justin Herbert is not playing well. I mean, sure, yeah, the offensive line injuries isn't helping, but Herbert himself is making questionable decisions with poor throws, turnovers, and just holding onto the ball too long and trying to make things happen way too much. So Jim Harbaugh needs his quarterback to start playing at the level that he was playing at when they were undefeated at 3-0. So he needs Justin Herbert to get out of this funk, or they're gonna clipper their grip back to the Kansas City Chiefs. So they gotta get out of that funk. So then in the Sunday Night Football game, in a key AFC matchup, they had the New England Patriots take on the Buffalo Bills, and that Patriots defense nabbed 3 turnovers on Josh Allen and the Bills offense, with Drake May and the offense going on strong to put a stamp on their rivals, 23-20. And don't look now, but the Patriots are probably back in the race for the division. And look how they performed on Sunday night. And this might not be an aberration in this 2-game stretch that they're having. Defensively, they shut down the run. They dared Josh Allen to play hero ball on them all night. And sure, they let him have his moments, but they either stuffed him and his supporting cast, or they managed to force a turnover when it mattered most, especially a red zone pick in the third quarter that prevented a touchdown from happening. Offensively, Drake May, he had a slow start to this game, just like his counterpart, but you could see how much more comfortable he got as the game progressed, thanks to making smart decisions, his offensive line holding up its end of the bargain. He also had a very nice play towards the end of the game, including a near sack pass to Stephon Diggs, who came into this game very motivated against his old team to get the first down en route to the go-ahead and game-winning field goal. So it was a collective team effort from this Patriots team, and they got the early key division win, which puts them just a game behind the Bills. So for the Bills, I can go in length again about their defensive issues, like the lack of a pass rush and their lack of a secondary currently. But the offense was just as sloppy in a game that they needed to win against the Patriots. They couldn't overlook this rebuilding Patriots team that was under the bright lights of Sunday night. Josh Allen, he played Superman all night when, honestly, he kind of didn't. He kind of forced himself to, because James Cook couldn't cook, and some of his receivers were selling out, and not in a good way. Allen, sure, he's to blame too, because he was playing try hard to win this game by himself, like he often had to, and he paid for it with nowhere yards and the red zone interception. So now you look at the Bills, and they have the Pats on their heels now with the AFC East. Now they have to win a lot of their games, and for the Pats to lose some of their games to keep their distance away from New England and keep the division in their grasp. Even then, they have to tighten themselves up with these silly mistakes. Then we had the Monday Night Football game to close out week number 5 as the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars took on the Kansas City Chiefs, as Trevor Lawrence shook off 2 poor turnovers to lead the Jaguars on a game-winning drive, capped off by his bumbling and stumbling touchdown run to upset the Chiefs 31-28. And let's start off with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, he had another very good performance. He didn't make too many mistakes other than the pick six, the very lengthy pick six that Devin Lloyd returned. But I feel like the rest of the team, it's killing them. It's killing themselves in the foot. They have 13 penalties overall in this game, and it's been very emblematic of their issues so far. All their unnecessary penalties were equally split amongst the offensive line, the secondary, and especially the special teams, when they could have easily been avoided, like Harrison Butker kicking the ball out of bounds, which set up the Jags in great field position for their last game-winning drive. The pass interference call, which set the Jaguars up for Trevor Lawrence's bumbling and stumbling touchdown run. So the Chiefs, they got to play much cleaner football, like they did against the Ravens, against a hot Lions team under the bright lights of Sunday night. And I'll say for the Jaguars the Chiefs lack of discipline. They could complain about ref ball all they want, but maybe this is a payback for them. And they could also complain about ref ball all they want, but they also have to be more disciplined, especially given the fact that one of their players is not being playing with discipline right now. Look at you, Chris Jones. Looking at you on that last play. Meanwhile, for the Jaguars, it wasn't pretty at all to start the game, with the defense giving up some lucky big passes from Mahomes and Lawrence not being able to get anything going. But I feel like what changed the game in terms of momentum was that pick six by defensive standout Devin Lloyd. It really changed the game, because even when they tried to get giving the game away at times, the entire team, it didn't give up. It rolled its way back with better play from Trevor Lawrence and the offense, and some timely penalties, of course. But Trevor Lawrence also made some nice improv plays as well to keep the Jags in it. So looking at the Jaguars right now, they're on they're on a hot streak right now with some big wins over the 49ers and now the Chiefs, and how they got them too. It's been big for Liam Cohen's team. Now let's see if they can string together another set of big wins over the Seahawks and the Rams before they head to their bye week in a couple weeks. And if they do that, they're right in it with the AFC South race with the Indianapolis Colts. So let's finish off this episode looking at the winners and losers and the look ahead to week number 6. Starting by winners of week number 5, we look at the Denver Broncos and how they came back in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. A total team effort. Bo Nix having a really nice performance against that Philadelphia defense, helping the team come back down 17-3. That defense shutting down Jalen Hurts in the offense. So pretty nice performance, and a gutsy 2-point call from Sean Payne. The New England Patriots stifling Josh Allen in the Bills offense. And Jake May having himself a nice performance as well. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Overcoming a 14-0 deficit and putting on a nice game. Devin Lloyd being the standout on defense once again, and Trevor Lawrence having one of the nice improv plays that I've seen in quite some time. And then the losers of week 5, Justin Herbert. Sure, his offensive line, like I said, it's not helping him either, but he's also been making some erratic mistakes and holding on the ball for too long and just trying too hard to make things happen when it's not there. And they've lost 2 straight because of that. And even if the Chiefs had lost, it's not helping the Chargers either. Then we have Kyren Williams of the Rams making two backbreaking mistakes, losing a fumble at the goal line to Alfred Collins that honestly could have ended the game for the Rams if he had held onto the ball with the touchdown, and then gained stuffed on 4th down by that Niners defense that ended up losing the game for the Rams in overtime. And then we have, I can pretty much put them as separate losers, but I'm going to group them all into one. The Arizona Cardinals, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Miami Dolphins, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because they all choked their games. They all choked up a sizable lead. Mainly the Chiefs, mainly the Cardinals, the Eagles, and the Dolphins. They choked their games when they had a sizable lead late, and then they managed to let everyone get back in it. Like, these are teams that are more talented than their counterparts, and yet they still managed to lose their games with double-digit deficits, and they lost. Especially the Arizona Cardinals. Like, what the fuck are you doing, losing that game in the way that you did against the Titans? Like, how? That's embarrassing. So looking at the headlines going into week number 6 as we wrap things up, the top one has to be that big NFC matchup between the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Like, all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye over the weekend, this game has become the must-see matchup. Sure, the Eagles are the team to beat, but all of a sudden, given that what happened with the Bucks beating the Seahawks, and then you had all the NFC West teams losing, the 49ers beating the Rams, this this game has suddenly become one big matchup with like implications that could potentially affect either team like in December when it comes to potential playoff implications. So it's suddenly become a must-win game for both of these teams if they're going to be competing for a playoff spot, the division, the number one seed, all that good stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of things on the line for both of these teams going into this Week 6 matchup in Tampa Bay. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills. They lost both of their games, their first games, mind you, this season, and it's a matter of how they respond to that. For the Eagles, they face the Giants this coming Thursday, and yeah, we're gonna see if they can finally wake up on offense. And for the Bills, they got to fix a lot of things on defense against a Falcons team coming off their bye and coming off their best performance on offense from Michael Penix Jr. So yeah, they got to figure out a lot of things on defense against that kind of hot Falcons team coming off their bye. And then the Chargers, they suddenly enter a must-win game against the Dolphins with the Chiefs. Even though they lost, they're suddenly on their tails again. So the Chargers got to win that game to keep their stranglehold on the AFC West and yeah, prevent the Chiefs from distancing further, keeping the division race close against them. And then some news in the NFL, recent news, the Cincinnati Bengals, they traded for Joe Flacco. A little bit of a kind of a little surprising in division trade that you normally don't see, but I guess it's one that doesn't really affect either team because it only cost the Bengals a 6th-round pick. But yeah, it just shows a sign of desperation for the Bengals because yeah, as I talked about earlier, Zach Taylor had to make a desperate move if they wanted to make if they still had the playoff spot in his sights. So making a move for Joe Flacco was kind of necessary, but at the same time, that offensive line is still very faulty for Cincinnati. And you have a 40-year-old quarterback that is not very mobile anymore. So yeah, is that going to really work out? Not really. And then you have the Broncos, the Patriots, the Jaguars coming off big wins. Now you got to figure out. You gotta wonder if you're a fan of either of those teams, how are they gonna follow up those big wins? The Broncos got to travel overseas to London, mate, to face the Jets. The Patriots are going down to the Big Hard, facing the Saints, who are coming off their first win, and then the Jaguars. They're staying home to face the Seahawks, who are coming off that close loss to the Bucks, looking to rebound. So now it's a matter of how all these three teams coming off these big wins, how do they respond? How do they follow that up for their next game in 2? So a lot of storylines, and surprisingly, as I said, this is kind of a slowdown period for the NFL. It suddenly becomes hot. It suddenly becomes hot again. But we'll see going into week 6. But until then, let me know your thoughts on this past week and week number 5. How's your team doing so far in the quarterway point of the NFL season? Has it been surprising to how your team is doing? Are they doing good? Disappointing? Let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or slide into the DMs on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna, or have they disappointed you so far? And let me know what game, what's intriguing to you for this upcoming week number 6 as well. Again, let's start the conversation in either the comments or a DM at Very Cold Lasagna. But for now, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna. Thank you for tuning in to our NFL Weekend Review number 5 and episode number 292 of this icy yet spicy podcast, bringing you the most filthy casual takes on the world of sports. And until the next episode, keep that lasagna very cold. And until I see you, when I see you in the next episode, peace out.